Welcome, everyone. It's time again for CBUS Roundtable Weekly. Kevin Rao here, along with the Hall of Famer, Ray Corbett. And Ray, this week, we just keep bringing in these coaches that have a great outlook on the job and what they do and their positions. We're going to be talking to Keith Lambert from Shekinah Christian and Devin Fulk from Heath. And these guys, again, I think one of the things I like about our program is that people who see these guys on the sideline and the intensity, it's just great to have a chance to talk to them in this kind of environment because the great knowledge they have, the great affection they have for the game and their team. And this week is just like that again.
Well, I mean, again, we're very fortunate to be getting these guys, and they are just, like you said, outstanding individuals. You use the cliche boulders of men and all these different things, but they're in it for the right reason. And I think they were all influenced by their surroundings, what they grew up around. Keith talked about coming from Ontario, which is just tremendous. It's a hotbed of basketball, and Ontario High School. Devin played college basketball up at Worcester, was around phenomenal coaches growing up that had to influence him in such a positive way. So, two great guys, both of them. And what I like, and this is something we've been able to do, and I pray we continue to do this, we're sort of giving you a different look from different size schools throughout this. So we're going to the smallest of small when we talk Shekinah Christian and Keith Lambert. I mean, he's talking 10 to 20 boys in the high school. You want to talk about issues, try to put together a couple teams dealing with those numbers and see how successful you are. And I know basketball is important out there in Plain City with Jonathan Alder. I had a taste of it back when I got into it back in 79, 80. And Shekinah has emerged from that area, and Keith has just done a fabulous job. And I just loved his insight, what he has to deal with. And now they're growing. So, now they're up to 200 total students
Crazy.
in the program.
Yeah.
They're doubling in size and
had to knock out a few walls to make that work,
It's going to be an exciting time for those people out there. And I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's like watching Hoosiers.
Well, you know what? And you're talking to guys that, again, you mentioned he coming from Ontario, which is Ontario High School, which is a powerhouse most years.
Right.
And you go to a Shekinah Christian where you're as good as the pendulum swings on talent on a very small pool, as you talked about. I mean, a dozen guys, maybe a little bit more, but boy, they've been able to put together a great team. And then you've got Devin Fulk, who came from actually down the road because he was at Licking Valley, and he ends up at Heath when he starts out and gets a job when he's 23 years old, and has just gone gangbusters there. As I say, these guys. So far, nobody's turned us down, Ray. I'm knocking on something when I say that.
It's early. It's early, Kevin. It's early.
I know. At some point, we're going to stretch.
How's that?
Yeah, that's right.
It's costly, believe me.
Yeah, it may just be you and I, whistling songs in a corner somewhere. But yeah,
tell you, my list of favors I'm going to have to take care of here when this thing's over with.
Well,
is going.
There may be some lunches and dinners down the road here, or those donuts you've been talking about.
Right. You know what? I'm disappointed. I've been frozen out of the donut industry. My waistline doesn't show it, but literally I have not been to the donut shop in a while. DK has not seen me. So
yeah.
I plan on making an appearance here soon, or find somebody that would support that habit.
I think there's going to be a production meeting there pretty soon, so I'll let you know.
We did have our spring meeting there this past year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because they do provide lunch, and that should get us some donuts. Just throwing that.
You would think
out there. Stacey's going to have to get involved here soon.
Well, if we keep talking about him, something's got to happen. So we'll work on that. Well, let's get to the interviews. Again, we're going to talk to Keith Lambert from Shekinah Christian and then Devin Fulk from Heath, and we'll do it right after this. Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center and Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your Class Pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We are lucky now to be joined by the head coach of the boys basketball team at Shekinah, and Keith Lambert. We appreciate your joining us. It's good to have you with us today. And Ray just got back from Florida, and we were nice enough to make it really cold, getting colder as we do this. So let's kind of take it easy on him. He's still adjusting. He wasn't able to play golf this morning, so we're gonna dish him in. Hey Ray, we got a good one here to start things out on our coaches interviews this week. So why don't you take it over and ask Coach Lambert what's going on out there at Shekinah?
First, I'm glad you sent me that warm welcome, because anything warm right now is a positive. And yes, the last time I did this, I was looking at palm trees, and now I'm looking at snow in my backyard. So
welcome.
Change is good.
Yeah.
Change is good. All right. I'll be back in Florida soon enough. So I'm a big boy. I can handle it. So
I'm flattered that you came all this way just for me. I mean,
well,
that's
Keith,
my takeaway from it.
I just want you to know this is how important you truly are. All right. Having an opportunity to speak to the almighty Shekinah Christian head coach. It's a special time for me. Okay. So first of all, hey, really sincerely, thank you for hopping on. What we've been able to do so far, this is our third podcast here on Central Ohio boys basketball. And my goal, as Kevin's, is to get an angle and talk to all the coaches that we can. But one of the other things here is I want to talk to coaches from different levels, different divisions. And normally that would be done in 4 podcasts or 4 telecasts, because you would be able to get, 4 divisions. But in today's world, we are now at 7. All right. And since we are now at 7, we now have our 7th. You're not the 7th one, but you are our 5th different divisional coach that we've had an opportunity to talk to. So Shekinah Christian, you guys are 11-1, having a great run right now. You're number 1 in the max prep poll, which means if we had our tournament draw, which is February 9th, 2 o'clock on a Sunday, you would be walking in there as the number 1 seed. And that would be, I'm sure, something you and your program would be extremely proud about, because of success. And I know it's not easy. But first, before we get into the hoops, briefly, I'm not sure that people have a clue at all. So where is Shekinah? Tell me a little bit about Shekinah Christian in a nutshell here.
All right. It is in a field in Plain City. A lot of corn around us. If you know where Jonathan Alder is off of 42, you can see us through their backyard. So we're kind of hidden off on a road just in the middle of nowhere. There's people in Plain City who don't know that we exist. We're off the beaten path a little bit, but the school was founded in the late 70s. Very small community, very little really focus on anything other than academics and sort of Bible learning for years. But the basketball program itself, I've done a lot of research on it. It was coached by Arnold Shetler for about 24, 26 years, something like that. And he took this tiny little school that had between 15 to 20 boys in it most years, and turned it into a program where a lot of local area teams had a decent amount of respect for it. The team usually had an over 500 record. They would play small schools or sort of church type teams that were put together.
Right.
And then around 2000, they joined OHSAA for some other sports. And then around 2010, they joined OHSAA for basketball. So we've only really been having a chance to be in the postseason tournament here for about 15 years. But as far as schools go, it is definitely one of the smallest in Ohio. I think I checked 5 years ago, there was 801 teams, and we were dead last in terms of attendance in our school for boys that actually had a team. There's a couple teams that had, or a couple schools that had 5 boys in it, but we had this. We really had the smallest school in all of OHSAA for a few years, and I feel like the kids at our school are they're incredible. They are. I've never had any issues with chemistry, with parents, with some of the things that maybe a larger school would have. They compete for each other. They play for each other. The tough part is that there's between 14 to 20 boys in the high school every year. So we kind of have to roam the hallways and pick out who we can get and say, hey, have you ever played before? You're 5'8" and have never played sports. You know what? We need you. We want a JV team this year. We'll take anybody. So challenges that we have are a little different than most of the other schools that you would probably have a conversation with, but different problems. But there's also a lot of things that go really well for it, and there's a lot of community pride. And it's been fun to see a class like this one sort of come together and really put it all together. We've had years where we had 9 or 10 players in the whole program. None of them are over 5'11". None of them are really super athletic. And then this year we just happened to string together a few kids who are over 6'2" and fairly athletic. So it kind of all worked out. But, being in the middle of nowhere, we don't get a lot of transfers. I've never had a transfer from another school in my 10 years that have had any high school basketball experience before. But we're fortunate this stretch here, we were able to group a couple classes of athletes together who've been playing together their whole lives. And it's been a lot of fun.
So do they?
Yeah,
go
can
ahead,
I just jump in real quick? Can you talk, you're talking about being there 10 years. Can you talk just a little bit about your journey to get there and what the challenges were the first day you walked in?
Sure. I went to Ontario High School up in Mansfield, was coached by Joe Baylog, and I grew up
Joe.
every year was you could go to regionals or state, and that was sort of the expectation, and that's what I grew up with. So I grew up expecting, you win, you're competitive every year. When I graduated from college, I didn't certainly play in college or anything like that. I'm not that type of athlete, but I was able to. My wife is a teacher at Cypress Christian School, and I asked, hey, I want to be a basketball. I never expected coaching high school, but I'm like, is there a middle school team? Can I help coach the 7th or 8th grade team? And the principal was like, yeah, you coach. We could use you. There's one team. Got there. I ended up being an assistant coach the first year. There was 1 8th grader, 2 7th graders, and I think 9 6th graders, and they were playing against 8th graders. And we got smoked every game. And I had to learn some lessons like, okay, maybe Ontario was an outlier. You don't always win all the time. So I spent 5 years at Cypress, and I never expected to coach high school even, but I got used to sort of that culture of small school. You work with what you have. The kids are great. You develop lessons beyond basketball. And then I had a chance to interview to coach at Shekinah. Actually, the principal whose son went to Shekinah said, hey, their coach left after this year. You should reach out. So I reached out. I emailed in May, didn't hear back. Followed up in June, didn't hear back. And I'm like, okay, well, there's nothing there. I guess I'm not going to be coaching high school. And then in August, I got an email back from the AD who had said, hey, I've been gone for the last 3 months for summer break. You want to come in and interview? Okay. That's kind of unusual, but yeah, I'll check it out. So I ended up going to get the interview. He said, what level would you want to coach? I'm like, well, you have a good program here. I've looked at your history. You guys win a lot despite your size. I kind of want to learn, maybe JV or an assistant coach or something like that would be nice. And he's like, well, we don't have anybody. You want to coach varsity? I don't know. But, we gave it a shot. And in that first year, I mean, there were so many things the culture shock that I went through. Hey, how does the busing situation work? How do you get to games? Oh, we don't have buses. You got to drive a school van. Okay, so I'm driving the team on this passenger van basically to games and back. We don't have enough for a full JV team this year, so you're going to have to work with the 12 guys who show up. Okay, that's a little different, but all right. So what's the schedule look like? And I'm not from Columbus, so I didn't know, but I see Jonathan Alder and Bishop Hartley, and they just played Davidson and Bradley. I'm like, I thought we were a small school. What are we doing playing? And they played Marysville and Harding in the recent years. So I got into it. We had a better team than I realized at the time. Uh, I was told that they can shoot, and we did. They shot almost 40% on threes for the season, averaged about 10 per game, and I thought it was always going to be like that. And then the next few classes rolled in, and it wasn't like that. So um, it was a lot of learning, a lot of adapting to, hey, you're not going to win 18 games every year at a school where there's 15 boys. You're going to have some down years. You got to power through, and hopefully it can cycle back around. So uh, it took a few years for me to realize that. I learned some lessons. I was probably a little too intense at first in my expectations and all that, but it's nice to just the community very, very welcoming. And like I said at the beginning, it's the problems are there because you don't have the resources. One year, a team stole our basketballs, so we had to practice for 3 weeks with two basketballs. Like that's all that we had. We couldn't afford to go out and buy new ones. So that doesn't really happen at other schools. But the problems that other schools might have, we don't have. The parents are amazing. They're supportive. Um, I've never had any issues with that with administration. It's a really great place to be. It's a small town feel, and once I've learned to sort of adapt to, hey, you don't have the resources that everybody else. This is, that something you're just going to have to deal with. It's worked out pretty well. So I'm thrilled to be here. I've had people say, hey, do you want to kind of move on at some point? I don't think so. I like where we're at. I don't have to go in 6 days a week in the summer and the family time away from being at a big school or something like that I know some coaches do. If I didn't have a family, I would probably consider it, but I get to spend time with the family, and the schedule isn't quite as intense as some of those bigger schools, and we're not allowed to be. I've gotten not scolded, but told, hey, you're practicing too much, or you're doing too much of the summer. You're lifting 3 days a week. That's too much for our kids to come out. So, okay, I guess we'll tone it down. Just a lot of different things that make this school and some of the other MoCal schools a different point of view that you might get, especially someone who grew up in a basketball culture at a bigger school.
Well, I'm certainly familiar with Joe and the program he had at Ontario. We scrimmaged him a couple times, and I had good teams when I went up to scrimmage his squads, or I wouldn't go scrimmaging because I knew I just knew what kind of program he ran, and they were very competitive. It was an outstanding program, and that's why he's a Hall of Fame kind of guy. And just I always saw a very quality person as well. So he had a great program. You and I have been familiar with each other because I was on the District 10 board for a number of years, and so that gave us an opportunity to get to know each other. And then we at Grandview, 3 of my last 4 years, we were Division 4. And so we were, unlike you. Now you're telling me, when you tell me you had 20 boys in the high school, is that what you're telling me? So is that like 10 kids per class that you had 5 and 5?
So sometimes we had a grade, let's see, 2020, I think we had 4 kids in the entire graduating class. They were all girls. So we had no boys in that senior class. One of the proudest moments of my career is when we beat Centerburg to win a sectional title at their place. And they had, I think their enrollment was like 119. They barely missed the cutoff for Division III.
Right.
And our enrollment was 10. So we had a bigger freshman class that year. So we ended up having, if you counted all 4 classes, we had 14 boys in the high school. 10 of them played basketball and 5 of them were freshmen. And I love the kids, but if you put them at another school, I don't think they're playing basketball. So there's a few like that. So that was probably one of the proudest moments of my career, just the way that the guys all came together and to beat a team that was 160 boys in the high school with 14 boys in our high school. That was pretty cool, and none of them over 6 feet. So that's
good stuff, buddy.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. So let's get into. And by the way, is it a private or a public school?
It's a private school.
Okay.
I should say that we are growing now quite a bit actually with the whole ed
Don't you
choice
have a
thing.
move-in?
No, they don't play basketball. They move in, they don't play basketball. They go for the
Oh, of course not.
education Christian atmosphere. Yeah, we our school actually, just to wrap up that thought, when COVID came, I think they said that the attendance K through 12 was under 100. It was like 96 or 94 or something. And now we're 4 years later, we're up over 200 K through 12, and it's
Oh boy.
growing. So we actually are. Looks like we're going to get a new gym finally, so that the 45-year-old gym that's not even regulation size can't even host a tournament game. Uh, that's going to be a relic here pretty soon. So I'm excited about that. So we are getting bigger. I can't play that "woe is me" forever, but the learning curve that it took me to get there, yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, you might have like double figures in every class if this keeps going.
Oh, I can't wait. Can you imagine?
Can you imagine 40 boys in the high school?
No, that's
I
incredible.
want to be there when you get
What a
your first
luxury.
parent call upset that their kid's not getting playing time.
I'll probably just celebrate. You know what? I actually had this opportunity when you got that year where we had 10 players and one of them had a concussion, and so we had 5 freshmen. It's like no one has to worry about playing time. We
Well,
need all of you.
if you want to celebrate, have your parents call me. I was really good at it about making those calls.
Yeah. I'll give you the manual he used. Okay, it's pretty special. So now you guys are 11-1, first place in your league, the Mid Ohio Christian League, which are schools like you, correct? But are all of them facing? I would think like Tree of Life has to be almost 3 times your size.
6 times, but yeah, they the who's counting the thing. So I'm a huge sports history nerd, and when I got to Shekinah, I did something that no person had ever done before, and that was actually look into the history of the conference. Um, I mean, if you look online at different websites and schools, they have contradictory information even when on the conference was started. There was so little organization back then. But the conference was started in 1998, and Delaware Christian won it the first few years, but they were one of, I think, 2 of the 5 or 6 schools that were even in OHSAA at the time.
Right.
And then Tree came, and they won the conference like 11 straight years, losing 1 conference game. They were the bullies. They had more resources. They were bigger. And then the conference started to catch up in the 2010s ish, and now it's been Tree still has. I don't want to talk bad about Tree because we play them next week, but they still have a bit of a head start in terms of resources and bodies and everything like that. But it's become a lot more balanced, and the MoCal itself for years was, to put it bluntly, it was terrible outside of Tree. My first year, 2015-16, we were independent that year. It was the only year I coached that we didn't have a conference, which is why we played all those big schools. Tree was down that year, and the conference as a whole, I couldn't believe it. This is my first experience in high school coaching, and none of the teams in the conference, I think, even won 10 games. There was 2 games won all season out of conference play, and they were against non-OHSAA teams. So nobody even beat an OHSAA opponent all season out of the conference. And so I at the time deemed it probably the worst conference in the state by a long shot. And we joined, and then we kind of had a down stretch and then an up stretch, and whatever. We were able to be competitive in it. It's gotten better since then. But these last 2 or 3 years, this conference itself has taken off, and we peaked at the wrong time. I think had we had this team 6 years ago, I feel we could have had a more clear path to winning the conference and maybe making a tournament run. But we're having a good year this year. Northside Christians won 2 straight district titles, and they brought a lot back, and they're still up there again. Tree of Life, they're, I think, in the RPI for Division 6. They're number 2 right now.
Yeah, they just beat Grandview yesterday.
Yeah, they did. So
I'm not happy.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Not Grove City, but Delaware Christian. I know their record overall. I think they're about 6-6 right now, but they beat Northmore, who's 3 or 4 in Division 6. They nearly won at Fisher Catholic, who's got a really good team this year. I think they're 1st or 2nd in Division 7. So the top 4 teams in the conference this year are as good as it's ever been. Now the bottom 3 teams. Yeah, pretty much. Well, except for the bottom part. Our bottom three teams in the conference right now are more of the traditional MoCal, maybe, but we got us three, and then next year it looks like Genoa Christian, who's up in Westerville, they're going to be joining, and they're I
They're
think
going to be
8-0 this year.
OHSAA.
They should be next year, from what I'm told.
Okay,
They'll be joining the MoCal, and they're 8-0 right now. They
right.
beat Fisher Catholic on the road, so um, the conference has really taken off. And I don't want to speak down on other conferences, but you can make a pretty good argument that we're better than the Mid State Cardinal, at least this year at the top. Not to have a battle between conferences, but the Cardinal traditionally has been way above the MoCal. You go to the tournament, and they typically win more games, but it's been pretty even, and we might have an edge this year. So, as far as small school conferences go, the MoCal is as good as we've ever been.
Good. Let
Have
me
you
ask
developed, I just want to ask real quick, have you developed a rival, or is it kind of a league-wide thing?
That's a great question. I think, I have some buddies, the coaching staff. Delaware Christian's the closest to us. John Landrum, the coach there, does a great job. Again, the small school thing, we try and have open gyms in the summer. Both of our schools can't get enough guys to have an open gym. So we're about 30 minutes away. We join up once or twice a week and go to the other place. We don't have air conditioning at Shekinah, so we're living up to the whole Flames type of mascot there, but it is really hot in summer. But I mean, it gets to the point where we're hopeful to have 6 or 7 from each team, and then I get to jump in. Coaches will jump in some. I'm probably at the tail end of that my playing days right now, but I'm hanging on. I can play with the JV guys.
Oh boy,
I'm waiting for that injury.
just don't go shirts off.
Yeah. But Delaware's probably our biggest rival, I guess you could say. But it's more of a friendly rival. Tree and then Northside these last couple of years have been up there as well. But as far as straight rivalries go, probably Delaware, just because of the proximity.
What do you like about your crew this year? I know you got a little bit of size, it sounds like.
Well, on the court, we start, like I said, we had a 2 or 3 year stretch where we had nobody over 6 feet. There was 2 years in a row where we started 3 guys at 5'9" or under, and that really makes it hard. There's so little margin for error when you're facing a taller team. You can't rebound. It's hard to see over top of the press. So it's there's not much to work with, and I didn't realize how blessed I was to have a tall team until I had one. Oh, this is what it's like to have athletes who actually, are stereotypical basketball players. We start 6'5", 6'4", 6'2", 6'2", and then our 5'9" point guard, and then we have a few 6-foot guards off the bench. So the height is definitely, something. It's a luxury I've never had since last year was the first year with this group, and then now it's really big for us. We have great positional balance. We have our true point guard, has a shooting guard, small forward who's 6'4". Our 6'2" guy in the post is he made third team All Ohio last year, and then he's I think 30 rebounds away from being our school's all-time leading rebounder. He just passed 500 a couple games ago, and then a 6'5" rim protector inside. So the positional balance is probably our biggest strength. Unfortunately, our shooting guard, who kind of does it all, he tore his ACL last week. So
oh no,
that's a big blow for us. He's one of those guys that, he's if it's the summer and there's 4 people at weightlifting, he's messaging everybody in the group chat, hey, can I pick you up? Can I take you to lifting? That cultural leader, he comes to everything. He's so supportive. He's down for the season, so that one's really going to hurt us.
Is he a senior?
He's a junior, which is good. He's going to miss his chance. He would have had 1,000 career points, I think. So he's not going to get that now. But it is really tough to see. Not that you ever want anyone to get injured, but especially such a great teammate like that who really does it all for the team. That's going to hurt us a lot. But the chemistry is the other thing I really like about our team. The guys, they hang out all the time. They're texting on the group chat. It's Friday night, and some are hanging out. Others are, doing their own thing, but they're all texting about, hey, I'm watching this game. I'm watching Tree of Life in Northside right now. Posting updates and sharing that on a Friday night. I don't know too many high school kids who have that night off that are watching games from league opponents and scouting them basically on their own and saying, hey, we could do this. We could take him in the inside, or this guy likes to shoot too much. We need to close out on him a little harder. You don't see that I've never had a team that's done that before. So I think that's something that's really special about this group.
Gotcha.
Well, that's fantastic. Ray, we're going to wind things up, but I want to make sure you have gotten all the information you want here from Coach Lambert.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was important that we introduced the world, or Shekinah, to the world, to be honest with you. And I think the perspective that you have, Keith, and what you do over there, because you've been doing it for quite a while and your feet are set over there and sounds like you're comfortable. It's great because you're doing it the right way, and it sounds like a very healthy situation. And again, I've coached against your teams. You could. I don't care how big or small you are. Your kids were always well schooled in the fundamentals. You did solid things out there. You were even when I went there with Lachey and Collier, we had that really solid team. It was in the regional finals. You were a huge concern for us because I thought, okay, knowing Coach, he'll do some things here that muddy the waters a little bit and make things difficult for us because I'd seen you do that in the past. So you're doing a great job, and it's nice to see you have success. I pray that, no more injuries. You guys are able to play at the level that you want to play at. So congratulations on a phenomenal start, and hopefully the 9th of February turns out to be a good day for you and you have a great draw.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
I was just saying, I appreciate it. Division 7 this year, it's funny. You'd think going from 4 divisions to 7 that it might lighten things up a little bit. I think it's tougher this year than last year. Division 7 as a whole. I mentioned some of the schools, but I mean, Fisher Catholic, Patriot Prep, Ridgedale is 10-2 right now. Like,
yeah.
The top 6 teams really could beat anybody, I think. So it's going to be a fun challenge, but we're fortunate to have the year that we've had so far.
And that's a theme that we've been hearing from every coach that we've talked to, is how this 7 divisions has actually made things a little tougher in their planning. Yeah. So yeah. Well, and someday I would like to come out and get with you about the history of the league, because I think, as Ray said, I think people need to be introduced to those teams and those players, and make some time to come out and see you all play.
Yeah, I'd love that.
I know when I've been able to see of the various sports that Shekinah Christian plays, I've always enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed the compete level of your players. So it's a lot of fun to watch. But we want to thank you again for taking time away from some family time and spend it with us. And good luck down the road. And hopefully we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. I heard the name Ray Corbett, and I'm like, I'm sold. I'm in.
Yeah.
I can't miss out on this.
Kevin, I have to mention one last thing before we shut this
sure.
down. All right.
Sure.
And this shows you where Keith is. He's not totally out in the fog out there in Shekinah country, because, like you said, all these coaches are saying how more difficult 7 divisions is than 4, which, I was always accused of being the Lou Holtz of Central Ohio. I am glad that my it's been passed down to another generation, because all of us are sitting there saying the same type of thing, that the opponents are much better today than they were 3 years ago, when I didn't have to play nearly the competition. So there you go.
There you go. You win. All right. Hey, we're going to take a break. Again, thanks to Coach Keith Lambert from Shekinah Christian, and what a team he's got this year. Go out and check out the Flames when it's a little colder outside, and you'll have a lot of fun. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Kevin Rouch and the Hall of Famer, Coach Ray Corbett. And we are welcoming now. We're going to go out. We were on the west part. Now we're going to go to the east part of the district, as we've got head coach Devin Fulk with us from Heath. And Coach, we had a little technical, so we're going to ask you to talk on your phone with us, which we appreciate. But hey, great to have you here. Thanks for taking some of your Sunday. I know you've already been out watching some youth games today, and trying to keep things going. So Ray, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk to Coach Fulk.
Devin, appreciate you being on. We've known each other for quite a while. One of my assistant coaches at one time was a head coach out there, and you assisted Coach King for a little bit. And so that's contributed to us knowing each other, and really appreciate you coming on board on this snowy Sunday. Just a few things here. First of all, what a start to the year. 13-1, leading the league, third in the district. Got to feel great about what's going on here. But before we do this is a huge thing here. I got this from Coach King. All right. Man's always contributing to your success. And he informed me that you have become the #1 winner in terms of all time at Heath High School in the game of basketball, replacing Bob Shoemaker. Is that accurate in making that assessment, sir?
Yeah, that is. That's an accurate statement. That just happened. But that would have been a week ago, Saturday, when we won our 10th game. That was my 219th win at Heath, and that passed Coach Shoemaker. I think a lot of people know Coach Shoemaker. Hall of Famer himself, had a really, really good coaching career at multiple places. But yeah, that just happened, and past Coach King somewhere along the line there too, in the list of career wins. But yeah, that's accurate. Yeah,
it's interesting. He didn't bring that up. The fact that you passed him up, but you did pass Shoemaker.
Himself, right? Yeah.
Kevin.
Yeah. I was
I
going to
thought you had something to say there.
No. I'm always interested in, well, first of all, congratulations. That's awesome. I mean, that's just one of those things that has to be talked about. But I also give us just a little taste of your background, where you came from and how you wound up at Heath.
Sure. So I graduated from Licking Valley High School, which is just about 15 minutes away from Heath. And then I played 4 years of college basketball at the College of Worcester, where I was really fortunate to get to play for Steve Moore, who's a Hall of Famer at the college level too. And so that was, obviously it was a blessing. Some of my best friends I gained from my college experience and got a really good education. But from a coaching standpoint, that was at the D3 level. I would say that was about as valuable of a coaching lesson as you could get. I mean, Coach Moore and the whole staff was incredible. So I played 4 years there, played for Coach Moore. And then when I graduated college, I was just looking for teaching jobs. And I wasn't very picky. I was applying just about anywhere. But obviously being from around this area, I was trying to be, if I could get something relatively close. My dad is actually, he's a 1976 graduate of Heath High School. So we went, my brother and I went to Licking Valley, but my dad was a Heath grad. So Heath had a teaching opening. I was really fortunate to get I was like a couple of weeks out of college and got hired for a teaching position. I knew I wanted to try and coach at some point. But that wasn't really a part of the deal when I was getting the teaching job. And then I was lucky enough that the head basketball coach approached me to help be an assistant. And then I was an assistant football coach for 1 year too. So my first year at Heath, I was an assistant basketball coach, and then I was an assistant football coach. And then after 1 year, the head basketball coach there at Heath, he resigned and left and moved and took a coaching job somewhere else. So I was 23 years old. I had 1 year of assistant coaching experience. I had 1 year of teaching experience. And I applied for the job when it was open when he left. And I was really fortunate. Heath kind of took a risk hiring a 23-year-old that didn't really have any real coaching experience, and I've been there ever since. And it's been really good to me and my family. Yeah, it's been a blessing. It's been a really, really cool experience. I've been there long enough now. I've got former players, that are on our staff. I got former players coaching at the middle school level. I got 2 former players that are now coaching our freshman team at the high school level. I've even got some former players that are starting. I got a couple of former players that have kids that are now in our middle school. So it's been really cool. Not to say it's been like a full circle thing, because I don't think we're quite there yet, but it's been really cool to to be around that long and see a lot of my former players now kind of get to be a part of it on the other end of it.
So I got to ask you here, Coach. So, this happened to me, and this is when you start saying, okay, I'm old. All right, yeah. Bottom line, I'm old. And that is when you start coaching former players' kids. Okay, having them in the classroom is one thing, and that's odd. But coaching them out there and then seeing the same characteristics from the kid that you had with the dad. You just sit there, man, you talk about not falling far from the tree.
Yeah, so one of the former players that coaches our freshman team, so he's got a boy now that's a 7th grader.
Getting there.
And so I'm getting close. And it's, that was kind of like one of those things when we got home, from the game last Saturday, our coaching staff did they did a really cool ceremony. They kind of surprised me with some stuff after breaking the school record for wins. And I got home that night and I was talking with my wife about how cool that was. And, she just kind of made the comment, we've been to a lot of basketball games. So I said, 219 wins, that's great, but we didn't win all of them. There's a lot of losses in there too. So you start thinking about how many basketball games you've been to and how long you've been doing something like this. And again, it's been a blessing. It's been really. Heath has been great to us. But yeah, it is. It makes you start feeling. You realize how long you've been doing it when you start having things like that happen.
So 13-1, and then and I brought this up again. Coach King mentioned to me that your one loss was somewhat painful due to the fact that was against. Do you have a little rivalry here with your the Valley?
Yeah. So it's when our schedule came out and my one assistant coach reminded me at some point right before the season started that I was 10 wins away from the school record, and I kind of wish he wouldn't have told me that. And just surprised me. And I looked, and not that in coaching you don't ever want to assume that you're going to lose games, but you also know that going undefeated, how hard that is to do. It's hard enough to win one game. I talk about that all the time with our guys. Winning is really hard, and winning one game, you need to celebrate that because everybody's trying to win, and teams, they try to make it hard on you to win games. But looking ahead, I saw that game number 10 was against Licking Valley, obviously that being, my alma mater. But yeah, so we get to that point, we're 9-0, and then we had to go to Licking Valley, and Licking Valley's head coach is one of my best friends.
Oh my!
We're really close with him and his family, and obviously we would have loved to have been 10-0 instead of 9-1 after that game, but it was an away game, So I will say it was nice to get to break the record back at home. Our next game was a home game, and we got to do that at home. That doesn't make you feel any better about losing the one, but it was nice to kind of get to do that back at our home gym.
So what are you surprised? And I don't know if that's the right way of phrasing it or not, because as just like anybody else, you look at your team during the summer, you look at the schedule. I used to sit there with my staff, and we would have All right. What's your projection for this year? What's your projection? We go through it, the whole thing, and well, you're pretty positive right here. Well, you're not, and we'd have that argument all the time. But are you surprised, pleasantly surprised by the success that you guys have had? 13-1 is one of your fine. It's got to be ranked at top one or two of your seasons you've ever had.
Well, yeah. I mean, so the only, we went in 2019. We had an undefeated regular season, and so that, I mean, this is the second best start. I mean, that we've had. Right. I mean, since me and my staff have been here, and the undefeated thing, I think that pressure kind of it got to us. I mean, when people started talking, like once we got to like 7 and 8-0, and people started talking about it, you could just kind of sense that our guys, I mean, they just kind of they acted different. I mean, and it got to them. Pleasantly surprised. I mean, that's probably the best way to put it. We brought back a lot of. I've got three guards that are 3-year starters for us now. 2 of them are seniors and one's a junior. And so they were 3 of our top 4 scorers from last year. But we graduated some really key pieces, to a good team. So we brought some really good pieces back. But like from a coaching standpoint, I thought maybe, our ceiling by the end of the year, I thought it was pretty high. I was just concerned early on, when you're trying to plug in these new pieces, that takes time.
Right,
and,
right.
Trying to get guys to figure out their role. And the new pieces, a lot of them that we were plugging in didn't have any varsity experience. So they're good players. But I thought it might, if I'm really surprised about anything, it's probably just been how quickly they've kind of meshed with each other. And adjusted to the varsity game. I think that's probably been the biggest surprise so far.
Well, let me go ahead, Kevin.
Say real quick. If a fan hadn't seen your team this year and they wanted to come out and watch you play, what's kind of your hallmarks on offense and defense for them to look for?
Well, I'll tell you this: if you walked into the gym, and I've had this conversation with our guys multiple times, and Ray, you've coached a lot of really, really good teams. When you have a really good record, you get this target kind of put on your back, and every night when you show up to play, you get the other team's best shot. A lot of times you get a team that does something that you didn't see on film, that you didn't get in your scouting and your preparation. And I've said to my guys, several times that, like when we walk in the gym, there's no intimidation factor. Like we don't have anybody. I mean, I list the tallest guy on our team at 6'3". I think if he got a haircut, he might be like 6'1.5". And so the first thing that would stand out is, like, well, man, these guys, they have no size. We have no traditional big man. And so offensively, we've got to find really creative ways to generate some 2-pointers, not just be a team that chucks a bunch of threes. And I think when we're playing pretty well, like we really struggled offensively Friday night in a road league game. We just tried to do way too much off the dribble. I think when we're playing our best, offensively, the thing that would stand out is our ball movement. We played a game at Bexley yesterday afternoon. We had 23 assists and only 5 turnovers.
Wow.
Big.
And so when we're good, I think we do a really good job of sharing the basketball. And then when we're just okay, I think we try to do a little too much off the dribble. I think the thing that would probably surprise people the most if they knew nothing about us and they came and watched us, through 14 games now, I think we're giving up something like 35 points a game defensively. And we've coached some really good defensive players over the years, and we've had some really outstanding defensive teams. Like the one thing that a lot of those had in common is, we had a big man, or we had a couple of big men that could protect the basket and allowed us to maybe be really diverse in what we did defensively. We don't have anything like that with this group. And we don't have any shot blockers. We don't have anybody that can even pretend to kind of protect the rim. So I think, again, if you hadn't watched us play at all and you walked in, I think you'd be caught off guard with how good we are defensively, how hard we play defensively at times when we're really locked in and really good. But that's kind of been our hallmark here early in the year, even when our offense has struggled. Our defense has been really good. I think we've held 4 or 5 teams under 30. And I think we've only given up over 50 one time so far. So that's been a really positive thing, even when our offense has struggled.
That's great. I mean, I personally, right there, you're preaching to the choir in terms of something I admire, and I like, being able to go out there and guard the ball, because that's going to, you never know about shooting the ball. And when you're in the tournament, when you're on the road in a major league game, being able to sit down and guard, get stops, that's the thing that you can control your effort. And that's certainly defense is a lot of it's going to be your effort. And the fact that you've got the experience you have out front, what a beautiful thing. I mean, yesterday I watched some really good basketball teams in this battle, the 6-1-4, and watching good guard play. There were two guards going at each other, one from the Lindsay School out in West Virginia and one from Westerville South. And both of them, one's been offered, the Westerville South or Central, I'm sorry, Westerville Central guard, he's going to Akron. And man, he had 25 points, but I interviewed him afterwards and I told him, I said, the thing that impressed me the most about you is your ability to sit down and guard. He made it very, very difficult for supposedly a D1 prospect on the other side to get into their offense. And so being able to guard, to me, that's where it's at. And that should help you in the long run.
Well, I think in today's world, I think that's even more rare, and now again, I'm dating myself like somebody that's been doing this for a long time, but you turn on Sports Center, you turn on, you get on social media, anything like that, it's just littered with offensive highlights.
Correct.
That's what kids today, they just see what guys can do with the basketball and all the incredible offensive things that a lot of these, NBA players and high-level college players do too. It's rare to find kids that will buy into that, that embrace that and want to be really good, on the defensive end, because that, that doesn't show up it doesn't show up in the box score. It doesn't show up in the highlights nearly as much. But what I preach to our guys all the time too is you go watch, and you coached in a ton of these games. You go watch, games that are deciding league championships and sectional final games, district semifinals, district finals, and beyond. The pace of those games, it gets slowed down so much because there's such a premium put on every single possession. You're not winning it. Rarely are you winning those games, in the 60s and 70s. If you can't guard, it makes it really hard for you to win those games. Because those games typically, they just become like a slugfest a lot of times. And you've got to be able to defend when it's really hard for your offense to score in games like that. And so, yeah, I've been really happy with our guys, buying into that and kind of hanging their hat on that, even when our, nights when our offense has not been great.
Good. Kevin?
Yeah, I was just going to say, as you approach this, is there anything different? I mean, you had a lot of these guys, as you mentioned, the last couple of years. Is there anything that you're doing differently this year as opposed to years coming up, or is it just kind of fine-tuning what you got?
Yeah, I think like schematically, we're not doing a whole lot different, from the last couple of years, because our personnel really hasn't changed a bunch in the last 2 years. Now, you go back 3, 4, 5 years ago, I mean, we had, like four of the tallest kids I've ever coached. We had them all in like the same class. And when we had those guys, we did a bunch of different things, offensively, defensively. We had a lot more like versatility because of our lack of size with this group. It kind of limits what we can do in terms of like being diverse on both ends of the floor. But one thing, like the group we have right now is really similar to a group that we had back in like the 2015, 16, 17 era, where we were mostly guard based. We didn't have any true post players. But when we had that group, we pressed a ton. And tried to get games up in the up in the upper 50s and 60s, and so the one thing that is different with this group is we've become really good defensively in the half court compared to a lot of the teams that we've had in the past with similar personnel, and we're playing a little less zone than we did last year. Zone was really effective for us at times last year. But we played it in a couple of games, but I mean we've been able to be good enough to defensively so far that it's kind of masked our lack of size. But the nice thing has been we've had some continuity here for the last year or two in terms of our personnel, both with some of the guys that we have back. But then also just with kind of the similarity to personnel with guys that have graduated and kind of new guys stepping into their spots.
Well, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your schedule and seeing basketball games before. Something tells me you'll have on the TV some basketball games today and keep on watching. But anyway, hey, it's been fun having you. Congrats on setting the record out there at Heath. That's special. So hats off to you for that. And we'll look forward to coming out and seeing you play, maybe getting some photos, some videos, some stories. And we've been threatening people with live streaming a game or two. So you might look for us, just kind of Ray and I hanging out on the corner at one of your games, begging to cover everything. So we'll do that. But again, thanks, man, for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you. This is great. Anytime you get to talk ball, it's that's fun. I mean, that's what coaches like to do. And we'll probably have we are going to watch some playoff football here today. But
there you go.
All right, fair enough. Well, I was just going to say, being from Licking Valley, you've got to like football a little bit.
Yeah. That's I played football in high school, so that's even though I coach basketball now, I really enjoy watching some good football too.
Yeah. Once you play for the Bachmans, you gotta watch football.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
I wasn't even going to get into the which of those sports is a power out in Licking Valley, because I don't remember. Once you cross past that, you go by that big old basket in the sky on that drive on 16. You're getting up there. What is that? Hanover, Ohio, there in the wonderful world of the Licking Valley. Man, that's God's country out there. And but they like their football. That's been a football powerhouse. I'm real happy for you, buddy. I'm glad you're having success this season. And You're doing things the right way. Sounds like things are solid, and hopefully it continues on. Division 4. You have to understand we've got the Corbett poll. I know Max Prep they think that they are important and that they have the poll that's going to dictate your setting where you are in terms of the sectional draw or the district draw, I should say. But we're trying to come up with what would be the correct and the prize, I should say, for winning the Corbett poll for every year. All right. And at this point, the leader in the clubhouse is the 2 dozen donuts for the team.
Yeah.
All right. We're thinking about the 2 dozen donuts from the DK Diner. We're gonna have to make a little pit stop in there because they've got some special donuts. Your team will be about 2 seconds slower per person. Those donuts are thick.
We can afford to gain a few pounds, but I don't think we can afford to get slower. I mean, we need all the speed we can get.
Well, I can't do a lot, but I could maybe get you some donuts out there in the wonderful world of Heath. But we're looking to come up with a prize here, looking for that company crazy enough to say they like us enough to make that kind of donation. Now that we have 7 district champions.
That's it.
That's
it. Okay. All right. Hey, thanks to Coach Devin Fulk from Heath, and keep it going, man. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Welcome back, everybody, to CBUS Roundball Weekly. Joining us now, as always, with his national championship hat right there, or at least it will be filled in at some point, right? Is Zach Fleer from 270 Hoops. Zach, you get through Monday okay?
Yeah, no, Monday was awesome.
Okay.
Monday was awesome. Tuesday was good. Wednesday's good. So, yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah. It's amazing what a 3rd and long bomb will do to make you feel a little bit better about a football game.
Yeah, it's quite literally my laptop background. So,
yeah.
No shots from that play.
That is fair enough. And it should be. We should all have that. All right. Hey, I know you guys this week were out and about this past week. A lot of different kind of events going on and good games. And part of that was 614, the event out at Ohio Dominican. But Zach, first of all, talk about what you saw this week and how it changed or emphasized the things you've been thinking already.
Yeah, no, Battle 614 is a great event. I think it's their 4th year doing it. Wasn't able to go out Saturday, but I watched some of the games on YouTube, and I was watching the YouTube and I was like, man, this guy commentating sounds like Ray, but I thought he was still in Florida.
He's just gigging everywhere. Yeah.
I was like, either he's got a voice twin or he's calling the games remotely from the beach. I don't know, but yeah, no, watched some games Saturday. The one I really enjoyed was Fairbanks Monroe Central. I think Monroe Central might have been undefeated going to that game, or maybe had 1 loss. And Fairbanks beat him at the buzzer. And with their win last night over Madison Plains, they're 15-1 now. So good to see them carry that momentum. Got out there Sunday, saw Gehanna and Perrysburg play a very close game that Perrysburg won. And then saw Westerville North take down Massillon Jackson in a game that Massillon Jackson almost came back and, made it very interesting at the end. And then just sat around and watched the last 2 games. Olentangy Liberty took down a pretty good Toledo St. Francis team. And then Newark, another buzzer beater win, beating Beaver Creek with Jake Quackenbush 3. So that was good. And then Monday, only saw 1 game Monday, but went out, and it's a great matchup between Bishop Hartley and Wyoming. Might have been the best guards matchup that I've seen all year. Hartley's got great guards, one of the best backcourts I've seen in the state, but Wyoming's guards were even better on Monday and just put on a show, and they're undefeated as well too. So it was just good to see some teams from around the state. You get so wrapped into Columbus basketball that sometimes you forget that there's really good talent, statewide. And just that game Monday especially just reinforced what I've seen. The best 2 backcourts I've seen all year, teams from Cincinnati, Wyoming and Cincinnati-Aiken. And those 2 teams combined, I think, are like 28-0 right now. So that makes sense. While they're undefeated, you got good guards, you got a chance to win every game. So it was good to watch, some different teams this weekend.
Well, I just want to remind folks, Ray, I'm going to ask you about those same games, but remind folks that if you should, first of all, you should be following 270 Hoops their social media, because you're going to see clips of all these players that we're talking about who have had these great games, and they just package them up in a way that it's exciting. Even if it's a 5-second clip, it's exciting and it's good to watch, and you get familiar with these players. So please head over to 270 Hoops on all their platforms and take a look at what they're doing, because they get it right, and that's true because the kids talk about them during the season about being on 270 Hoops. So make sure you do that. All right, Ray, you were out there at 614, and it was you gigging there doing the late games all 3 days. What did you see, or did you see the same things that Zach did, or how did those games change your mind a little bit?
Well, I mean, I first of all, to reiterate what you just said about the talent around the state, or I guess Zach said talent around the state. Oh my, there were plentiful, all kinds of talent, great teams coming in. I thought Central Ohio flexed its muscles quite well. And to be honest with you, I thought the matchups were interesting. They were a lot of closely competitive games throughout the days. My first game was Lutheran West and Harvest Prep. And I mean, anyone feeling that Harvest Prep has lost a step here because the record is not as shiny as it has been in the past during the regular season, let me tell you, they're going to be a difficult outcome tournament time. They lost to a very good Lutheran West team. And I told a number of coaches, Lutheran West executed as well as anyone I've seen in a long time, especially in the fourth quarter. So hats off to them and the job they did. I really liked Westerville Central, their guard play. I thought that was a good one to watch against the Lindsay school. Lindsay had a point guard that's being looked at supposedly as a D1 kid. Westerville Central, I believe, has a guard that's going to, and Zach knows more about this, but he's going to Akron, I believe.
Yep.
And he did a fabulous job defensively, not just controlling the ball, but defensively. He sort of dominated the second half with his defense and had a couple key steals and forced turnovers in Westerville Central's victory. Kenton Ridge Afrocentric, third game of the night for me on Saturday. Kenton Ridge was undersized, and very young, four sophomores starting with a junior. And they didn't win, but they hung in there and they played. I thought just, when you go to these neutral site types of games, you're never sure what you're going to get out of it. I think that Kenton Ridge got they were educated big time. They're not going to face a team like Afrocentric in their league and in their tournament draw. So I think a very positive day for them. Perrysburg Hannah, like Zach said, great game. Jackson, Westerville North, hats off. Westerville North, wow. Can they get after you defensively? They spread the floor, do a lot of good things. Liberty, huge, as Coach Nosman told us when we spoke to him earlier. Just real nice up and down. And then to me, and I saw Coach Quackenbush later, should say the next day, Beaver Creek tied the game, 11 seconds to go. Newark comes down in the most casual pace that I've ever seen in my life as a basketball coach. I was going nuts announcing the game saying, come on, get into it. And with like 5 seconds to go, there's a little false motion. And the next thing you know, the young Quackenbush comes off a double baseline screen, catch, release, buzzer goes off, nothing but cotton, ball game. I mean, just well executed. But I was just so impressed with the discipline that they showed down the stretch there and how they executed. They did a great job. Maybe the surprise game of the day was Hilliard Bradley and Springboro. Bradley with only 3 wins going into the game beats a 10-4 Springboro team and does it soundly. They are young and inexperienced, physically not there, but baby, they can execute just like a typical Norris team. And they guard you. They're tough. I know, again, they're not having a year. I watched them again last night against New Albany. but you better not sleep on them. Wyoming, I'm not good luck beating that team. They have everything you want. Size in the middle. They go to him when they want to. They didn't jam it to him early, but in the second half, he became a very important part of their offense. And man, they guard you.
What division are they in?
They are they're 4, and they're
Okay.
I think they're.
Yeah.
I don't really know who else is in D4. It seems like the really good teams are between D3 and D5, especially locally. Yeah,
So
they're D4, so that's a team I think we could see them in the state championship type. I think they have that type of talent. They're guards. They're all juniors. The big man's a junior too. Those 3 guards, best guard trio I've seen this year because they all are different. Like they have a lead guard, Darren Gray. He's played in a couple 270 events, so I was familiar with him already. He's just the facilitator. I think he probably had 8 or 9 assists. Doesn't look for a shot a whole lot, but he can score on his own. But the other 2 scoring guards, Kellen Wiley and Devin Evans, they combined for 47. Wow. And it was very efficient, especially the Evans kid, just one of the smoothest shooters I've seen all year. Really quick release, but he can also beat you on the closeout. Got a quick first step, hit a couple floaters, had a pull-up jumper that he made. So that team, and then the big man, Carlisle Billingsley, 6'8". It was the first time I've seen Hartley play against a team with a legit big, and I think it exposed kind of a weakness that they have on the interior. Marcus Hemphill is their big man, but he's only about 6'3". He competes really well with the other bigs.
He's athletic as all get out.
He's very athletic. He had 21 points. He had a great game, but when that team is playing against a team with elite size and legit size like Wyoming had, they're going to have to do something different because I think it exposed something with them in that game Monday.
And I didn't think Hartley shot the ball particularly well. Really, I'm not sure how many teams did shoot the ball particularly well down there. I'm not sure if that was the defense, shooting background.
It's the court. It's the high school 3-point line at ODU is not.
You're right.
So it's like so light, and that court is already kind of yellow golden.
Yeah,
the college line is black, so kids run to that first line that they see. If you go back and watch any of those games, like they're not taking any high school threes. Every single 3-point shot taken is a college 3.
Yeah.
Teams, they don't shoot well at ODU. I mean, you see it every year. District finals, you have teams that shot the lights out all season. They get to ODU and they seem to can't buy a bucket. Well, it's because they're shooting, 3 feet deeper than normal.
Yeah, I remember the discussion there last year. We started calling it a 3.5. Because it matters. I mean, that little bit can matter.
They just need to tape. I mean, we're doing games at the Expo Center this year, so it really doesn't matter. Only I think D4 is or D7 is at ODU or something like that. But all you really got to do is just get some black tape and tape that high school line. You had 2 black lines there, kids would eventually adjust, but just in that gym already, you can't. If you're playing on that court, you can't see that high school line, so you're not gonna. It's gonna feel weird lining up behind that because instinctively you're seeing that dark line. You think that's the line, so.
Right?
Sure.
The last game that I did was the Licking Heights and Watterson game. And I sort of, to be honest with you, I went in there thinking Watterson was going to win that game. And it turned around the other way. Licking Heights got a nice win, and they look good doing it. They're big, athletic. They got a couple little guards that run the show for them. So, they're D2. And again, you've got a real good Westerville North, and I think an improving New Albany D2 team. So may not be an easy way out, but we'll talk about the tournament, how many teams get out.
You got 5 district finals. So
so they might be able to find themselves a spot to land.
I think they will. They could be that team, again, that takes that, like we talked about last week. They go to that 5th district title bracket that most teams are probably going to want to avoid. If you're a team like Licking Heights, like that's a chance for you to win a district title. So no, they're good. And you talked about them earlier, but their record doesn't look good. They're 4-10, but I think Westerville Central is a team that is very capable of winning a district title. Like they have the talent to do it. They've just played a really difficult schedule, and they've lost, some games, really close games. They lost their first 2 games in overtime against Licking Heights and Pickerington North. So that's a team, you could see them going into the tournament at like 9-13 or something like that. And, coming out winning a district title, much like Watterson did 3 years ago in 2021. they entered the tournament at like 7-14 and made it all the way to the regional finals. So,
well, when you throw good guard play in, and they've got two pretty stellar guards out there, I believe. And so senior guards in the tournament, they don't want to go away too quickly. So they'll be motivated to continue on.
Zach, what do you got this week coming up? What's the weekend look like?
Well, I saw a great game last night at Hamilton Township between them and Harvest Prep. Hamilton Township, if you haven't seen them yet, they got a junior guard, Joe McBride, who's a football superstar as a wide receiver, but also one of the elite scorers in Central Ohio. He came into that game averaging about 28 points per game. He had 29 last night.
Wow.
They jumped out 32-15 on Harvest Prep in the second half or in the second quarter, but Harvest Prep came back, responded with a really good run in that second quarter, cut it to 5 by halftime. It was tied after 3, and then Harvest Prep kind of turned it up in the fourth quarter, ended up winning by 11. But that was a really good matchup between two teams that, like to get out and run. McBride was a superstar in the first half, but then Brandon Roddy and Ephraim Campbell, the top two guys for Harvest Prep, they took the game over in the fourth quarter. So, you talked about Harvest Prep. Again, they don't have a stellar record if you look at it, and, they're 10-6. But if you look at that schedule that they've played probably the toughest schedule of any team outside of Division I in the area. They're independent this year, so they're not in that MSL Cardinal division anymore where they, just dominated teams for 15 years in a row. So, they'll be really battle tested by the tournament. So I saw that game, and then I will be going out Friday up to Marion Harding, actually, for a little rivalry matchup up there, but it's a MOAC first place game between Marion Harding and River Valley. Both teams with really great records. I think Marion Harding's won like 9 or 10 games in a row. I think they're like 12-2 or 13-2, and River Valley is like 12-2 right now as well. So should be a very fun game Friday night. So I'll be heading up there for that one.
So we'll expect a full report. And again, just remind people that if you want to see some of the highlights of that contest, head over to 270 Hoops and their social media feeds and their website and just take it all in, because you will be immersed. It is it's one of those rabbit holes that once you start watching, man, you look up and it's a couple hours later. So we appreciate all that traveling and all that shooting and all the stuff that you're doing, Zach, and look forward to talking to you next week. Ray, you got anything else for Mr. Fleer?
Well, I was wondering here whether or not, so Zach, when you put your poll together, do you use Max Preps to determine your poll as a guide, or do you just do it based on your knowledge and what you see?
It's kind of a little bit. For D6 and D7, I use Max Preps completely. I just don't have the time and just energy to do all 7 divisions. But I kind of go off my own like eye test and knowledge of the teams, like, because Max Preps, I mean, the formula is pretty good, but it also doesn't take into account head to head. You have multiple divisions where a team, like Columbus Academy beat Bishop Reedy, but this week I think they're first, but last week they were still behind them. Hartley beat Waterston head to head, but Waterston is still ranked ahead of them. So I take that into account when I'm making, the polls, and then I have like a strength of record metric that I use. So every single game that you play, you get assigned a point value for if you win that game or not. So like Harvest Prep last night, they went on the road against a team, Hamilton Township. They were number 3 in D2. So that was like 9 or 10 strength of record points for them. You get more points for beating good teams. So if, you're playing a really bad team and you're at home, you may only get maybe 4 points for that, where if you go on the road and you beat a really good team, you may get 9 or 10 points. And then that just adds up. And then you see over time, over the course of the season, okay, here's an 11-win team. They have 91 strength of record points. Here's a 10-win team. They only have 68. So that 11-win team's beating better teams. And, you can even have like a 7-win team that's got more strength of record points than a 10-win team. It just shows you, who's playing a tougher schedule. So I use all those things, and then head to head. And then I do use Max Preps as just a guide to make sure I'm not completely off with any of this.
Yeah.
And I'll say Max Preps like helped me realize like Worthington Kilbourne in D2, like they're better than I thought they were. They were number 6 in their RPI last week. So I was like, hey, let me keep an eye on them. That encouraged me to bump them into the top 10. And then they went ahead and beat Westerville South on Friday night. So use it in some ways, but you also got to use just the normal eye test and go watch the games for yourself as well.
And do you post that on what day should we look for that during the week?
Power rankings are on our Substack page. So if you subscribe to our Substack, it's like $5 a month. You get all types of reports, power rankings, game articles, scouting reports, things like that. But those come out usually Mondays and Tuesdays.
Well, we'll throw a link in the description to that and get some people, hopefully drive some people your way so they can check those things out.
That'd be awesome. I appreciate it.
Right.
That was my issue with, I know that the formula for the max prep has been approved by the coaches, and I've been a little surprised. I didn't even pay attention to it last year, but this year, based on the head-to-head, I just didn't understand it. Like Reedy or Grandview beat Mechanicsburg, and Mechanicsburg's ahead. They actually went out to Mechanicsburg and beat them there. And there's been a number of examples of head-to-head, and I just didn't understand why that wasn't reflected as much as I thought it should.
And it's kind of a flawed, like it's the formula is kind of flawed too. If you go and you play like an out-of-state team, so I like when teams challenge themselves with these out-of-state games, but within this formula, if I beat the number one team in Texas, for example, that a team did beat the number one team in Texas. Who was it? I'm drawing a blank. It was Brunswick. Like Brunswick beat the defending Texas state champions.
All right.
According to the formula, they're only going to get what it would have been for them beating a Division 4 team, like for the points. And then even with your win percentage, you get docked a certain number of points. If you're like a D1 team and you beat a D2 team, it doesn't count as a full win. So Reynoldsburg is undefeated. They're 13-0, but their win percentage is like 93% because they have 3 Division 2 teams in their league that they've beaten every time. And it's like they're kind of getting punished for it, which is just a little goofy, I think. But they're just trying to figure out a way to reward teams for playing up. But again, you're going to get more points for beating Cristo Rey, for example, versus beating Harvest Prep because Cristo Rey is D4 and Harvest Prep's D5. So
who do you have at number 1, Division 1? Let's see if you and I are on the same page here.
I got Reynoldsburg. They're undefeated. They're playing great ball. They're 1, Orange is 2, and it'll be.
This is going to be for
they play. So
this will be for a milkshake. All right, I'm gonna go with my boys from Orange. All right, and let's see which one comes out because they might be in the same region when it's all said and done and have a chance to go at each other. And,
I really think that game's not going to happen until state tournament. I think if Reynoldsburg gets to 1, I see Orange going to a different. I see them going to the Wittenberg Regional. That's just my
okay. All right. You know what's interesting, and I thought about this the other day, and I talked to a couple of coaches about the draw, how they felt about it. Everybody's going to sit down at the same time statewide on February 9th at 2:00, and they're going to have their district draw. You don't know if somebody out of the Dayton area who might have a chance to go elsewhere for a region where they're going to place themselves on the bracket. So it's sort of like, okay, so I could go to this one, but I'm not really sure. If I go outside of Central Ohio, am I going to face the best team out of Canton, or am I going to face the 5th best team out of Canton? So it's sort of interesting how this thing's going to work out statewide. And again, you didn't have a whole lot of that prior to, but then we didn't have 6 teams coming out of a district of 20 squads.
That's when if you're one of those top teams, then you assign an assistant coach to go get the Zoom link for one of those other draws and buy in.
It's gonna be right there. You're gonna be waiting and you'll say pass. I wonder if you're allowed to do the pass move anymore. You used to pass if you didn't somebody in your district.
Absolutely. They did. It happened last year at the D1 tournament draw. New Albany was the 3 seed, Newark was the 4, and Licking Heights was like the 6 seed. And I think Licking Heights passed like 9 times in a row because they were trying to get their preferreds because they knew people were going to go after them.
Right.
Trying to like get a game that they would have wanted. And they ended up losing in the first round of Groveport anyways. But
after all that,
it happened last year. New Albany was the 3, Newark was the 4. It might have been vice versa. One of the teams went on the board And yeah, New Albany was a 3, Newark was 4. So New Albany passed, Newark went on the board, and then New Albany jumped in on them and chose to play them in the district semis. They could have faced them in the district finals, but they jumped in basically the same pod. They met in the district semifinals, and then Newark ended up winning because that game was at Watkins Memorial. So anytime they put Newark at Watkins, good luck. That's a Newark home game.
That's a home game for them. You're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the tournament draw. It's really exciting. I wish that they would push it back though. I don't understand putting it 2 weeks before the end of the regular.
Playing more games after. Hey, maybe we should do a live stream later that day and talk about the draw. We'll get with our production people here at the Elmwood Studios and see what we can put together. But that might be a fun, little hour-long talk about the draws and be able to have the other state, brackets to take a look at. So anyway, we'll get on that here and get some really good people to take care of that. So I'll let you guys know because I think that'd be a fun stream. So anyway,
the most exciting part of the season,
it really is. It really is because
to kind of look at the brackets and man,
this is strictly from a fan's point of view that you say that. I mean, I love the tournament. Don't get me wrong, but I always at Grandview we were the smallest school in our league, and they went, "Oh, it's getting you better for the tournament." And I always look at it and say, "Yeah, one bad day.
Yeah,
well, that's all I need is one bad game, and that whole argument's been shot because I spent the whole season to prep for one game. I prefer to have a league that I could possibly win versus a tournament draw. Again, hey, you win a district, that's great, but still makes for a long year of preparation."
Well, you'll be the cynical voice, when we do the stream. That's okay.
Voice. I'm a man of reason.
Well, that's what all cynics say. But yeah, okay.
You guys ready in 2019 when Lachey had the dunk at the convention center to kind of end that game against Johnstown. I know you remember that one. So
that one there was quite special. I do still have the pictures of Lachey. And I'll tell you a little insight on that one of these days. We don't have enough time, but it was one of the funnier things that I've had happen as a coach. And it was right after Lachey dunked the ball, steals the ball from a very good player and actually did what we taught him to do. He had his drag hand down. He flicked the ball away, went gathered, dunk, buzzer goes off, and we're the district champs. So pretty sweet sign there.
Pretty cool. By the way, that one dunk was more than my 3 sons combined in their career. So I just want to make sure you know that.
I saw them jump off each other a couple times and get real close to the rim.
Yeah, there would have had to have been cheating, but that's okay. That's all right. We don't mind. All right. Hey, that's going to do it this week with Zach Fleer. And Zach, thanks a bunch, man. And stay warm out there because I know you're traveling all around. It's supposed to get a little bit better next week, but this weekend coming up is going to be tough. So thanks for your insights, and we'll look for more of them when we get together next week.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center and Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your Class Pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com. Welcome back. We're going to wind things up here on CBUS Roundball Weekly. Kevin Rao and the Hall of Famer, Ray Corbett. And Ray, again, we mentioned when we got started today how much fun those coaches would be, and they proved to be because, again, I just like the idea that we get a chance to meet them on a personal level so that when people go to watch these games, and by the way, you should go watch these games. You should go out and see Shekinah play, and you should see Heath play when you get a chance. But you get to see then and understand the coaching style and what they're after.
Again, just as healthy a situation as you'd ever find when you start looking at why people do what they do. Why do you coach? Why are you an athlete? How did you find it that Keith found his way, Coach Lambert found his way to Shekinah? And that was an interesting little tidbit. That story in itself was interesting, how he found it there. And then we get to Devin, Coach Fulk, and his journey to And the age, there's no
I
way in the wild
know.
world of sport. I
Yeah.
interviewed for a gig. I interviewed for a job at Worley, and I was that age. Thank God they didn't give it to me. All right. I would have been selling insurance, if that, maybe something less than that, probably.
Yeah.
So, had I gotten that job, there's no way I was prepared. And so his knowledge and experience, and to Heath's credit, the administration, to give him that opportunity and for him to be able to maintain a certain bit of sanity at that age is
Incredible.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Now, he's having success. He's had a couple phenomenal starts, and he's having a great year this year again.
Yeah. Well, get out and see these folks play. Go back and see our other, installments of this show, and you'll see some other coaches that I think you'll really like. And, I just think it's great entertainment. I mean, you go out and see. You were out at 614, the Battle in 614 this past weekend. Saw a lot of great games. There are a lot of ways to take these in and get in the spirit of it, and it's. I'm looking forward. I get to do this week. I'll be at Dublin Jerome doing a game, sitting back in the seat to do some on-air play, and so I'm looking forward to that. It's just, by the way, one step closer to you and I getting out there, and so we'll do that. You passed the test this past weekend, so
by doing 10 games, that was the test.
Yeah, and so you can now move up. I'm kidding, because I know the guys that did play-by-play out there, and they're great. So I don't even want to say that. But
I do have a game that I'm doing. I'm going to be at Central and Canal this Friday night. So I'm working with Fairfield County Sports Radio.
Oh, great.
At this point, that's my last game before the spring training. I get the call from the
that's right.
Start heading south, where I'm going to miss some of this minus 20-degree weather.
You came back on the coldest days ever.
I've got,
or at least in the last few years, right?
Nothing else. I've got timing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look. You got your poll this week.
I do.
We talked earlier with Zach Fleer about some of the games. So how did that impact your poll this week?
Well, I mean, this week there were no shakeups in Division I.
Okay, give me the list of those 5.
Unlike Max Prep, who is the state power when it comes to polls, I've got Olentangy Orange as my 1. They have Reynoldsburg as the 1. I've got
as does Zach. Yeah.
I've got Liberty 3. Delaware Hayes has moved up to 4. Newark's at 5. We moved to Division 2. Westerville North, and they are comfortably in the Division 1. Or
where would you have them if they were in Division 1?
Nice question. Give me some time to think. I would have them in my.
Would they be in the top 5?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe they would be, because they are just so athletic.
Yeah.
They're well balanced. They've got good size. They do a lot of good things, and they guard out of this world. Do they guard? So I really like them. But they're my 1. They could be a Final Four team, I think. New Albany getting better. Saw them again last night. 12-2. Licking Heights did make a little move. Licking Heights moved up to the 3 spot at 10-4. Northland and Big Walnut round it up. Okay. Then we get to Division 3. And Central Ohio Division 3 sort of took a hit. The CCL did in the 614. Hartley, Watterson, DeSales all lost, but they lost to great teams.
Well, that's it. And probably a net plus.
That's an
going forward
type of loss. You learned about your team a little bit. Hartley's still my number 1. Watterson 2. Walnut Ridge has moved to 3. Marion Harding, who has a big game, as we heard from Zach, with River Valley this weekend. They're my 4. DeSales at 9-5 is my 5th. In Division 4, Max Prep has Jonathan Alder as the number 1. I'm not there. Okay. I've got River Valley at 1. I've got Heath, the Bulldogs, who took it on the chin last night to Mount Vernon. I've got them at 11-2. They're my number 2. JA 11-3 is the 3rd team. Johnstown has slid in. They're the 4. And the Red Raiders, who, by the way, play Jonathan Alder this weekend. So we'll figure out which one's which.
Some Madison County action. Yeah.
boy, here we go. Wonder which one. That could be the Der Dutchman game of the week. So there we go.
I think we should just call it that and go watch it. But yeah, okay.
I'll stop at the Der Dutchman. You go watch the game. Division 5. We've got Academy still undefeated, untied. All right, and unscored upon. All right. They had a nice win at the 6-1-4. So they're 13-0. Bishop Reedy 15-1. I did see Afrocentric, huge. My lordy, they are big. 13-1. I saw Harvest Prep now 10-6. And then, as mentioned by Zach earlier, Fairbanks hit a last-second 3 to win their game. They're 15-1. So Division 5, serious gauntlet. Fredericktown at 10-2. They're crying the blues because bad timing. They're good, and they're 10-2, and they're the sixth team. Division 6, Cardington having a fine year, and we're going to have Coach, I believe Coach Rice on here this Sunday. We'll interview him. They're 12-2, and by far the number one team in Division 6. Tree of Life picked up a couple wins over the weekend, beating my beloved Bobcats of Grandview. So they're 11-4. Northmore, who also beat Grandview, but in football, surprising, teams can be good in two sports.
Yeah, then they very good in both sports. Yeah.
9-3. Centerburg's 9-5, and Grove City Christian is my fifth rated team there at a 500 record. And then finally, here we go. My co-number ones, I got Shekinah and Patriot Prep.
And that's in 7. We're talking about Division 7 now. Yep.
Shekinah's 11-1. Prep is 8-4. Again, Prep schedule is demanding. I mean, they lost the other day to Harvest. That's a great game for them to play, but it's not going to shine your record up. You got Fisher Catholic in the Mid-State Cardinal. They're 12-1. Northside Christians 10-4, and then Morrill Ridgedale 10-2.
There you go,
big boy.
There it is, the Corbett list.
Yeah,
and there could be donuts on the line. So yeah, we'll keep that going.
We can find a donut shop in your neighborhood.
Yeah. Hey, good luck. We'll actually know by the time this comes out. We'll know what happened. But I know you're going to watch your daughter Mary coach at Kenyon, actually at Worcester as they play. Yes. Kenyon plays there.
The Owls being represented right here.
Yeah. There, other side. There you go.
Yeah, somewhere
there you go. There's Kenyon. Yeah, up in beautiful Gambier. Now, hey, listen. We got Tommy to play at Grandview, but we couldn't get Mary. But I will tell you, I saw her play a few times in college, and she's ruthless. I like her compete. Don't you agree, though? She played at a high compete level. And,
I used to criticize her quite a bit. And the best thing that happened to my daughter, and this is going to sound a little odd, but I was fortunate enough to be there for this game. They played Thomas Worthington. And Mary
but she was at Arlington, so everybody knows. Yeah, go ahead.
Rivalry, and she knew the point guard from Thomas. She knew half the team through AAU and such. But there was a situation where there was a loose ball, and Mary got on the floor, and a girl from Thomas Worthington literally stepped on her head. Put a Chuck Taylor, for those of you who don't know, that's a Converse. Chuck Taylor print in her head. And my daughter went from being a little bit timid out there to red-faced and ticked off.
Yeah.
And that was like game 2 or 3 of her senior year, and she had been really stressed out. She wanted to make every three imaginable. After that, she loosened up and started playing the way she was capable, and she ended up having a great year senior year. And it's all because, as we know, all because she got stepped on.
Stepped on the head. Yeah.
Little person.
There you go. Well, as I say, I like her compete level, and I like it as a coach as well. Because, Kenyon, when you in D3 is tough to begin with to recruit because you're not given any money, athletic money. And, you go out there and, Kenyon, great school. I mean, one of the great schools in the country. But, to find people to play sports and to do well, it's tough. And she's doing that now. I know you were telling me off air about her recruiting efforts. So, well, good luck tonight up at Worcester, but more important, good luck in the long haul, because it takes a while to turn a program around.
Yeah, she walked into first year and won more games her first year than they had won previously. And she felt really good. And then she has been, and they have been snake bit by injuries. This year, she has two of her starters that have blown out knees, ACLs, and another one who's had concussion issues. These are all kids who had started the last couple of years. And so, it's tough to be competitive in that league. That league is very good.
Oh, it is very good. Yeah.
So, on the ladies' side as well as the men. And, she's out there, but, she's putting together, from what I gather, a pretty good recruiting year. We'll see if they are the Fab Five from Michigan or not. They could be the Fab Five at Kenyon next year. And that group could be a serious boost to her program.
That'd be great. Well, when we start, maybe we'll do a segment on alumni when we run out of coaches or something, but she'll be on the list. So be ready. Okay. Let her know and tell her good luck tonight. I
will do so.
Because I think the world of her. All right. Hey, that's going to do it. We had tons of information this week, and it's only going to get better. And we are truly, as we mentioned to Zach, we are truly playing with the idea, at least I am, of doing something on tournament draw day to kind of talk about the brackets. So stay tuned for more of that, and certainly stay tuned as we may do some live streaming as we get CBUS Sports back up and running our relaunch in February. So stay tuned for all that. Hey, thanks, Ray. Stay warm before you head to the South and start working for those Red Sox.
Hey, go Sox. I'm a part of the Sox Nation. 75 was a difficult time because being a Cincinnati Reds as well as a Red Sox fan, that was a difficult year.
Yeah, that's the old, the ball. He's waving it. Yeah.
Believe me, I know exactly. I was a senior in high school back when that happened.
Yeah,
And there was a Bernie Carbo. He hit a home run as a pinch hitter in the 8th to tie the game.
Right. He was a former Red and then hit it for the Red Sox.
My heart, because I loved him when he played for the Reds, but I didn't love anyone more than Davey Concepcion, number 13. That was
and when he played at Riverfront with that AstroTurf, when they first put that in, he'd play in left field and then still throw guys out. So
he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. He was ahead of his time.
Yeah, he was.
It'll be interesting to see if he ever makes the Hall. I don't think
I would love it.
He's a light hitter, but boy, could he guard you.
And that was a lineup. Hey, we'll do that another time. But hey, be warm, and we'll see you next week.